Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi part 2 of the discussion of the Quad with Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar. A shift of focus towards the Indo Pacific. Sir, as we discussed in the last talk, a lot has happened over the past 24 to 48 hours. As a matter of fact, Biden Saab is supposed to be landing in Tokyo. The talks with Prime Minister Modi and the newly elected Prime Minister of Australia, which are also in now in the focus. How do you look at it at the outset, sir?
Well, I think this is a very important meeting, the Quad meeting. From many points of view, we're going to see certain issues being fleshed out. So far, the Quad has been an informal grouping. The question is, will it become a formal grouping? Right? Will it become the Asian NATO which China fears? A lot has been spoken about NATO, Quad and the AUKUS. What people do forget is AUKUS is still a submarine program which is 10 years away, whereas Quad is today. People say that, look, Quad is going into the non-military and the non-security aspects, but the fundamental thing is the Quad is a quadrilateral security dialogue. Okay. So a lot of clarity will come in this meeting, which is the second, meeting between the heads of states. A lot to look forward to. And this is at a time when China is going through a massive change.
Yeah.
Right? Apart from the Ukraine war, Russia is slightly out of the picture, but China itself is going through a massive change. I see even job cuts by Tencent and Alibaba. Economy not doing well, COVID going rampant. Even today, I saw that Beijing is under some kind of a work from home policy, and a lot of political uncertainty in the air in Beijing. So let's see. I mean, a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. And, this Quad Summit seems to be actually on the books for, of a lot of people around, observers, if I may put it that way, around in this region. People are talking about it, and even the Chinese have started talking about it. So there seems to be some sort of this thing. And in your comment that quadrilateral security dialogue, one doesn't wonder to kind of understand whether the name Quad has been chosen for a purpose and kept the security part kind of hidden for a particular reason, sir.
Well, there's nothing. It just wants, people have forgotten about it.
Yes.
But it's there.
Yeah.
Right. And we have come together. The Quad has come together, not to play act. It has come because of a felt security need or a felt security threat from China in the region, in specific the South China Sea and the adjoining regions, and in the larger Indo Pacific context.
So, would you term this as a particular plan that the Quad nations kept for themselves for this particular point of time? Because one really thought that when the conflict in Ukraine came up, a lot of focus is now going to be in Europe rather than in towards the Indo Pacific. Would you term Solomon Islands as kind of a wake up call, sir?
Oh, it's a huge wake up call. I mean, this is the first base for China outside the South China Sea and Djibouti.
Yeah.
And just on the doorstep of Australia, and gives you a great reach to the Americas, and it gives you great control over the the Central Pacific Ocean, the trade routes. So if the Navy is present there, so I think it's a huge shift. It's the first step taken by China in its outward move, and it had to be responded. It will be responded. So, and to that extent, this Quad Summit is very timely and of importance. To be very honest, I thought this Quad Summit was due anyway, because by now, if under normal conditions, the Russia-Ukraine war should have finished.
Yeah.
The focus would have gone away from it. But unfortunately, it's gone into some kind of a cold hybrid mode, and people have now started getting disaffected by it, and the focus is now on this side. So that's how it is.
Oh, you're right. So, as a matter of fact, yesterday there was an article in the New York Times, which is quite, apart from the realities, which talks about the need of stopping the extra focus which is being put onto Ukraine, and Ukraine must be told to understand there's a limit to the support that can be given. So one can realize if it's coming in the New York Times, it's quite significant, sir.
Yeah, there's a slight shift,
Yeah.
right? People have started moving out. The Ukraine war is no more on the headlines. That itself has got its own significance.
Sir.
Time to look ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Taiwan for a minute. Of course, the Taiwanese have, not been very happy with the kind of responses that the US has given to it in terms of its arms purchase and stuff like that. There was a bit of a misunderstanding about that. We also had the planned visit of Nancy Pelosi that got cancelled, and quite a little developments happened during the past couple of months. Having said that, the line which has been changed on the State Department website has created a huge amount of headline, from the sticking onto that one China policy to kind of not really mentioning the independence of Taiwan, but hints are quite clear. How do you see this?
It's a very subtle move and a very clear pointer that one China is under risk. Okay, it's today the lead is from USA. They've conveyed a message that we don't consider Taiwan as part of China anymore. That's the that's the obvious hidden message, right? But it's more than a message. It indicates a shift in your stance. That means you're prepared to go down the route much further with Taiwan, right? So, uh, look, so far China was taking it for granted that everyone will respect its one China policy,
Mm.
right? Well, while people were really not interested in doing so because of the way China was behaving. Uh, this is the first official step. People will start ignoring this one China business, right? Uh, if it's today America which has dropped it, tomorrow someone else will drop
Yeah.
it, and after someone else will drop it. It's a contagion. So that puts immediately China on the back foot.
Mm.
Okay, and and a lot of it stems from the fact the way they usurped Hong Kong and behaved thereafter, because they broke solemn promises, treaty promises they broke with UK, right? That till 2047, Hong Kong will retain its character. So if China can break their promises, why should others keep their word? So they're getting paid back in the same coin, which I think is a fair one.
Was it fair game, sir? If I may.
Yeah, it's a fair game. I agree with you.
So when one looks at the from the Western perspective, they see two big giants kind of in front of them. One is Russia, which has the largest amount of nuclear weapons in the world, and the Chinese, who are now being termed as a peer competitor by the Americans, which is supposed to be, if you look at the theory of superpowers, they will not let China come to that particular point of time. What we see between Russia and China today is sanctions, which is the commonality, which they are kind of working on. The Russians have, I won't say evaded it, but taken the first hit pretty well. The Chinese also talk about being able to take the hit. But I think what I read in the middle of the lines is the Chinese are scared of personal sanctions to some of the big guys.
I think Chinese are scared of a lot of things financially. People say China is a pure competitor. Yes, so far China has played USA by investing heavily into the US Treasury bonds and dollar denominated assets. A lot of people, a lot of Chinese have got their assets in USA. So a lot of things are dependent on USA. You're still drawing money out of USA.
Yeah.
Okay. If tomorrow USA sanctions these assets, either of individuals or the government in some form, China stands to lose more than Russia could ever think of. Right? That is something they started getting worried. They're trying to decouple from that.
Mm.
But the problem of decoupling is, where do they take that money and keep it?
Yeah, that's a big problem for China. Yeah.
China. And the moment you start decoupling and individuals start coming out, look, at the end of the day, the Chinese government is an autocracy. People know that they need safety walls from this autocracy. That odd guy will have to run away from China when the time comes. Okay. So he has to keep his money there and he will never take it out. Okay, he'll has to keep it either in USA or Europe or
Well,
some place. You know, he can't take it out. Not so easy. So they're at risk, and that's another lever with USA.
the West, yes.
Yeah, and the West. So that's how it is. And look, let's look at it from a slightly different perspective. Who keeps money in China?
I don't think even
No
the
one keeps.
Chinese.
Well, the Chinese themselves don't keep money in China.
Yeah.
So all this talk of peer competitor also goes with a bit of a question mark. Trust. What drives the international financial system at the end of the day is trust. Do I have trust in China keeping my money in Chinese denominated currencies? Unless it's a hedge or to get some day-to-day flexibility, I will not. I'll not have that. Right? Look, USA is only threatening to sanction China. But if you have everything in the Chinese system, they'll sanction it. They'll coerce you into it, and that's what the European people are businesses are experiencing. That's what a lot of American businesses are experiencing. They're not allowed to take money out. Okay, so it cuts both ways,
Hmm.
right? And right now, uh, the Chinese are under pressure on this issue.
Yeah, they've got, I think, more to lose in terms of a balance. If you
Yeah,
try and put them in a
right.
sort of a weighing scale, the Chinese kind of have more to lose in terms of this, and especially the top echelons of the CCP who've reportedly, allegedly, if I may use that word, have got a lot of money stashed abroad in terms of the corruption and a whole lot of things that happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
So,
agree with you.
talking about the CCP itself, we've been reading about it now. I've been reading about it for the past about half a year or close to a year now. Here and there, and they're quite tight-lipped, and the kind of perception that they put across is everybody's behind the dear leader, if I may. Um, Recently, there is even in the Chinese, publications, there are certain differences from that opinion which are coming out, which subtly give you this thing that there is a bit of a disagreement within the higher echelons to do with Russia, to do with zero COVID and common prosperity and a whole lot of other things which has been going on. Uh, how do you see this entire thing in terms of the timing of what the Americans are trying to do? Because Americans are not stupid; they're not going to miss an opportunity like this.
Well, let's leave the Americans out. Within China, there is a problem. When you said everyone is behind Z, everyone is behind Z. Only thing is they're not with Z.
The
Behind
other way
Z,
around.
behind his back, yeah, they're doing their own trick. And they sense a weakness in Xi Jinping.
Hmm.
The zero COVID policy, economy, all that is not so shining.
Yeah.
It's not that, shining China type of a statement. It's not a victorious China anymore. Economy is hit, jobs are hit, zero COVID policy is being, reinforced. Uh, People are not happy. There are even reports that people want to quit China and they're not being allowed to go out. Forget taking money out, they want to go. Right? Big
Applications have
tech.
gone up by 25% in the
Yeah,
past 3 months. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. So there are issues in this whole business. Uh, and everyone says his election for a third term is already done, but then it's not done. It has to come and that he has to be elected. Who knows, something else might happen. In between, there are reports of his bad health.
Yeah. I was.
Okay, I mean, they just don't come out of the air. There is something brewing. Okay, once in a while, I see a report of the Premier Li Keqiang to coming up,
Getting some more
right?
power in the system.
Uh, yeah. So there are alternate voices coming up, uh, and there are rumors behind closed doors, and the Chinese system is like that inscrutable. Okay, and let us see how things move. They say in China that the ruler gets the mandate from heaven, and the mandate lasts till there is a bad, harvest or there's a natural disaster or something like that. So maybe the natural disaster has taken the mandate out, and God doesn't want this fellow to continue. So, or whichever God they believe in or don't.
It seems eerily similar to the Pakistani establishment, if I may.
Yeah, it's always there. They have these autocracies and
Survivability.
dictatorships.
Mm.
They're always there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It gives you this thing that they want to kind of survive, no matter whatever it is.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of developments within the neighborhood, sir. Of course, I'd like to take Japan a little separately because Japan has already got some rising tensions with regards to those northern islands with Russia. So obviously, the Japanese would want to put some focus onto that area. South Koreans who are being tried to be involved in this entire thing have got a huge amount of problems with the North Koreans who's been going ballistic with his ballistic missiles, if I may. Uh, this particular peninsula and this particular area requires some attention from the United States because both of them depend on him for security. How far do you think this is also played a role in the going to play a role in the upcoming talks?
Oh, this is going to be huge. Look, when the Ukraine war happened, one of the first reactions came from South Korea. They said, we'll nuclearize. And there's a poll conducted in South Korea which said, well, North Korea might be the immediate threat, but the greater threat is China. And we need to nuclearize on our own, not depend on American weapons. For the first time, I've heard this debate opening up in Japan. Okay. Japan normally doesn't talk of this. And in the recent last 1 week or so, for the first time, I read from the Chinese media that Japan could strike at China, that could carry out strikes on China, which means something. All this, it is serious business, right? Plus the fact that this Russia-China axis is developing. Whether it develops or not, we don't know. But we need to understand the Japan Sea, not South Korea, not the Korean Peninsula, the Japanese archipelago, that Vladivostok area. That's a confluence of almost three nuclear nations, definitely China, Russia, and North Korea. And if South Korea and Japan go nuclear, you're talking of five, plus America's present six. That's going to be the next nuclear flashpoint.
Yeah, that's why I kind of
Okay,
thought to talk about it.
that's the next thing. It's a big thing. And if that changes, if the nuclear situation there changes, China will change its policy, whatever it is. As it is, they are modernizing their nuclear weapon systems. And if and their policy changes, and then their modernization means more number of nuclear weapons with China,
Yeah.
that will have a blowback on us and in Pakistan. That will also prompt Iran to go nuclear, Israel, and XYZ, Syria, and all these people
Saudi and
who,
yeah.
who always wanted nuclear weapons but could never happen. Now just think for a moment. Taiwan runs a nuclear reactor. What if tomorrow people discover that Taiwan has a basement bomb in its basement?
Won't be surprised.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. Okay, you don't need a great nuclear system to, like, fundamental.
You don't need it to
The
be
whole,
efficiently
yeah,
done.
you just need something,
Yeah.
and the whole place will go bonkers. This is the hidden. I wouldn't say the hidden, the one which is just over the horizon.
Hmm.
This problem is over the horizon. It's going to come up. The court might not discuss it, but this whole story is going to open out.
It'll be there in the backdrop of these meetings, whatever said and done. This is a
Yeah.
predominant tension which is going to be there in the US and of course the Japanese minds. So
Yes.
we also see new governments. Philippines is an interesting case where they've kind of reverted to something that they hated about a couple of decades ago. And the Australian, I don't know if you call it an upset or not, because India, a lot of reactions have been pretty positive towards the new gentleman who's coming in. So it's interesting to see how this particular thing is going to go out, because what we are seeing is the new Prime Minister of Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese,
Albanese, yeah.
is wanting to now talk to Modi on a bilateral basis, which was not there on the schedule before, and has put out already feelers with regards to his relations with India, and so on and so forth. How do you see these two new governments in this particular region, especially Australia, trying to influence what's going to happen there?
Look, Australia is badly hit by China.
Yeah.
And suddenly Australia realized that they need someone other than China. And that someone else is only India. They have no choice. And in fact, there's something which I've been telling over and over and over again. The only alternative to China in terms of scale, capability, and size is India. The world knows it. Okay. In fact, I read an article which said maybe USA made a mistake of choosing China over India in 90s. Well, be that as it may, the Australians are very clear that they cannot put their eggs in the Chinese basket anymore.
Hmm.
Whether it's a left government, right government, center government, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have no choice. They have to come out of it. So they'll talk to India. They don't have a choice with China sitting on Solomon Islands to become pally with China. After all, today the enemy is at your doorstep. See, again, when Chinese were coming into Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Maldives, and all that, and we were crying horse, no one bothered. Today they're coming there to their neighborhood and they're worried. Okay. So the Australians are worried.
Yeah.
Whether it doesn't matter which color that Australian is, right? So they have to have someone else. And there's also, see, there's another thing which has come up. It's a little funny. It's a little, I don't know how to put it. There is a feeling that the one entity which China fears and worries about most in the Quad is India. Because India has a capacity to deal with China politically, unlike others who can't deal with it politically.
Okay, how would you say that, sir?
You see, to anyone in this region, okay, uh, it is India alone who gives comfort politically to people, and it is China which gives discomfort politically to people. India's political acceptability in the international
Okay.
forum is much higher. and it is growing higher by the day. India might have a lot of defects. That's a no brainer. But acceptability wise, they will accept India rather than China. They might do business with China, but they are at risk. Now, the Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Nepal example are being quoted more and more.
Yeah, even in Europe, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they say they see India coming to their rescue of especially Sri Lanka, and of course Nepal is there in the background, right? And China talking much and doing nothing. So that is a big problem for China, and it opens. And you are ethnically a lot of similarity within the Asian nations and the Southeast Asian nations with India. They understand India better. Their comfort level is more. Whereas that is the same thing doesn't apply with the other members of the Quad. So India's ability to politically manipulate things is a great weapon with the Quad. That worries China because they can be politically outmaneuvered. People say that the way we banned the apps made more dent on the Chinese psyche than anything else during the Ladakh crisis.
That is true.
It hit them at unexpected places. Their influence was caught. So we did something which at that time seemed insignificant, but we were the only one who did it.
And they couldn't fight back as well.
They couldn't fight back. And suddenly they realized they have a lot to lose. Okay, India will lose, but they have a lot to lose, and that lot to lose would destabilize them. Okay, so that is where acceptability of India is more, and this perspective is something which we need to exploit.
So interesting. So let's now, kind of, we will obviously, as we discussed in the first episode, that we will kind of, explore what exactly comes out of the joint statement and, of course, the subtle headlines that come out. We'll try and explain as to the relevance of this. Just to close this discussion, sir, geopolitics has been on the rise, and it's pretty much a changing world every day. We see countries aligning with each other and kind of separating from each other at literally a drop of a hat, and for their own mutual interests or their own particular national interest. Would it be in India's favor to kind of point out, and this is something that I'm realizing India has had to do multiple times in the past some time, where India has had to point out mutual interests to various different countries in various different forums and in various different bilateral meetings to kind of move this thing forward? What I'm trying to say is that would India actually would have to take a sort of a push role or a lead role within this thing to kind of keep it in shape?
I'll put it this way: India has to focus on what it wants out of the Quad. See, because Quad is not a formalized structure so far, the theme is okay. Containment of China. That's the unstated theme. There's no theme. There's no doubt about it. But the action lines, what do you want to do? The main focus, etc., 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 has been shifting. There's nothing consistent. Okay, and in this, where it's still in the formative stage. In this formative stage, you had the Ukraine war coming in, where there was an apparent rift between India and the rest of the Quad, or I won't say rift, a difference of
Disagreement, yes.
Disagreement. We've got over that. So I think it's time that the Quad lays down what it wants to do. And what it wants to do has to be a consensual approach between all the four. It can't be a Pacific oriented approach. It has to be an Indo Pacific approach. Okay. Look, just as China's foray into Solomon Islands, tomorrow if China gets a base in Maldives or say in Kayak Fu or in Gwadar, what is the effect? Okay, so the effect is even worse if it forays out into the Indian Ocean, or if it is allowed to foray out into the Indian Ocean, right? So we need to get the right focus, and for to get the right focus, India's view has to be stated upfront, and India should say, look, this is what we want from the Quad, just like everyone wants everything from the Quad. It could be the highest common factor or the lowest common denominator principle.
Whatever.
That's whatever. But the fact is that we need to put something on the table to say, okay, this is where we'll move ahead, and use the 2+2 forums to take it further ahead. After all, you have a 2+2 with Japan, Australia, and Russia. So the nuances of the overall statement, as it affects two particular countries, could be taken forward on that forum. So there's a synergy between the other strategic partnerships individually between countries and Quad, which can develop.
A lot of work that needs to be done, sir, because
Yeah, there's a lot of work. It's a work in progress, right? And as it's a work in progress, things will crystallize out. And we also have to remember that whether the Russia-Ukraine war has gone cold, long drawn, whatever, it is there. It's happening. Until that's happening, with Finland and Sweden trying to join NATO, and all that happening, the European countries will not be able to focus in this area, though they have their interests here. Though all of them have put out a strategy, including France, have they put out an Indo Pacific strategy. But will they be able to commit anything here? No, they have to depend on the Quad. To that extent, the Quad gets strengthened. Already Europe will start putting their bets on the Quad. Now, South Korea also has indicated that it wants to join the Quad. Whether it joins or not is a different story, right? Whether it's allowed to join or not is a different story. But the platform called Quad has more relevance. And that relevance has to be solidified in the form of a common minimum program, right? Or they say, okay, this is what we must do. So it's on the cards. And I hope something comes out like that.
Absolutely. I think, all of us are looking for something a little more concrete to kind of focus on to, because currently what we see is an amalgamation of a whole lot of dreams and plans and, setups and desires which are kind of taking place within this thing. I'm not saying work has not happened, but, it has to be kind of focused and streamlined. Thanks, sir, for the interesting discussion. I think we've ran through the paradigm as far as this region is concerned, from new elections to the nuclear threats to the issues within the huge flashpoint coming up within the Eastern world, if I may, the Far East, as it is mentioned, Japan, South Korea, and that triangle which is heating up to a large extent. The Russia-Ukraine war chugs on, as every day there is some movements here and there and stuff like that, a surrender here and a capture of this town, but substantially nothing major is kind of happening there. So it's going to be interesting to see these two geopolitical events kind of taking place simultaneously, where the entire world can actually get affected from what's happening.
Yeah.
We're going to readdress it, as we said, going forward with regards to the outcome of the Quad Summit. And I hope we do come up with something concrete. Till then, sir, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thank you.